This is a historic time for the world. Change is happening, and Women Speakers Association has been here for 10 years. And we're celebrating this year, this time, our 10th year of being an organization. And today we have Gail Watson and Leora Mendeloff, who founded Women Speakers Association, here with us today. So welcome to the both of you. And Gail, why don't you set us up with what is our intention for this time together?
Awesome. Well, this is a really special moment. We were just both Leora and I just saw this graphic for the first time, the one that you were just looking at, and it moved us deeply. When I looked at that picture, I realized so much has happened, so much has gone on behind that curtain, so to speak, of these past 10 years. And as any business owner out there knows, who steps out and pursues their dream or pursues a vision, how it can get challenging along the road. Today, it's just such a special time to have you, Leora, here. But it's to give this community a quick peek, a little bit about where we've come from, but more importantly, where we're at today and the impact that our members have on this world today, and just have a conversation about the vision and how it is still very much relevant today.
So, Leora, I wanted to hear from you, since you were right there in the beginning, and what was that original vision? What happened, and how is it relevant to today?
I have to say that it's sort of what led up to the vision. Gail and I at the time had been in the speaking world for decades, and it was so apparent how the way we'd been doing things forever was no longer working. I mean, on every level, not just what was being said from the stage, but how people's messages were getting put out there, and things were just stale, not heart-based. It was all like motivated by the head and by money. And it just wasn't real. It wasn't real. And we really saw, we were witnessing the beginnings of this old model, this old paradigm starting to crumble. But somewhere in me, I'll say, I felt like that was simply just the micro of the macro, that what we were experiencing in our own little lives, not that they're little, but you know what I mean? We're literally just this microscopic example of what was starting to happen globally, universally. And so I had no intention. I had no idea that that was a conversation that was wanting to happen, that dialogue, that conversation around what was happening wanted to happen out there. All I know is that I literally was woken up in the middle of the night. I mean, from a dead sleep with this clunk, this download of Women Speakers Association. And initially it was funny because I thought, Women Speakers Association, like, clearly that's something, first of all, what is that? And I'm sure it already exists, but what I was shown, if you want to call it that, is that I wasn't seeing a vehicle at the time for that platform to happen within our industry, but even more on the global stage. And so having this kind of sense that we, each and every one of us, is the micro of this macro conversation, that here are all these, and I'll just say specifically women, that we each have this message inside of us. And that what if that message is meant to help usher in this new world, this new paradigm that was being born, we saw, is grounded in everything that the old model's not. In community, in collaboration, in kindness, sorry, I don't mean to like poop all over the old paradigm, because it's not, and we used to say back in the day, you know, it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are things that do work in the existing world. It's just that the context within which they're working does not work anymore. That's really the impetus behind what stirred in me when I was sleeping, that woke me up, and that birthed the concept for Women Speakers Association.
And Gail, what happened when you heard this birthing?
It's great. My background at the time, I spent a lot of time in the corporate arena, and it was a real competitive world. And during our conversations, we talked about, we knew that this new model was wanting to emerge. We knew that it would be grounded, as Leora said, in things that weren't really present in my world. It wasn't about competition. It was about collaboration. It was about contribution. It was about how we all matter. It's about how we all are equal, and that every person's message is valuable. And that's why today we talk about, and you hear us, we'll say it all the time, there is no message greater and there is no message less than your message. And truly believe that every woman message has been gifted, and it's here for her to share. Another big motivating factor for me was is that I vowed, and I actually wrote it in the original bio as we went live with our first website 10 websites ago, was that I never wanted to see any woman's business go down because life happened. And because life happens to us every day. We are faced with, whether we're having to care, elder care, we have family commitments, work, what goes on globally. Life happens. And the one thing that I never want to see, and especially to women, to all people, is that when we step out and realize our dream, to step out and step into it, I never want to see that go, or never want to see that taken away. And I've been witnessing that more lately, just with our global pandemic happening, where I'm seeing women, bear the brunt of what has to go on. And I'm being very strong and committed to, you're not going to shelf your dream, because when we shelf our dreams, we take away that hope for us, that light at the end of the tunnel that keeps us alive. And so that's what really got me when we were first talking. And like you said, Leora, we've never seen this as it's about us or anything. We've used the language before that really feel that Women Speakers Association was gifted to us. It's a vehicle for all women. It's a vehicle for all women to travel in, to have the impact and to make the difference that they were always meant to have.
So, I don't know, I'm just feeling kind of called. Gail had invited me to write something for the newsletter, a blog post for Facebook. And I immediately thought of, and I just wanted to, would it be okay just to read something from this?
Yes.
Because I feel like it really grounds this conversation and why we're here today, 10 years later, 10 years after our inception. So this is a quote. It starts with a quote, and it reads, "We are here at a defining moment in history, a time in which the world as we know it is transforming into something greater, far greater than we could ever imagine. We are moving out of a survival of the fittest mindset in which control, competition, and winning are king, and into a more integrated field grounded in collaboration, contribution, and one in which women are at the forefront, the leaders of the 21st century. As such, it's time for us to shed our old skin, to break through our own self-imposed limitations and stretch beyond what's safe or familiar. It's time for us to create new mindsets, new models, new methodologies, and consciously create our future. It was 10 years ago today that we went live with those words on the homepage of our website. A decade ago that WSA was born, and along with it, a vision for a new world. So this one more thing that I just want to read, because it's just so based on what's going on in the world right now. I find that it's pretty amazing that this message came through 10 years ago. So at the time, we shared how the world as we knew it was transforming, how the constructs that make up society were expiring, and that inevitably there would be a fundamental dismantling, not just of the speaking industry, but of all industries and government and education, healthcare, the economy, the media, etc. So, you know, of course, we never could have predicted that a global pandemic would have been the catalyst for such a thing to happen. But here we are, you know, here we are. It's happening right here and now. The thing that I'm that kind of makes my heart sing is to know that while we were witnessing all of, you know, what was starting to happen and this dismantling was occurring, that something that, as we said before, that something new was emerging. And so, you know, I would love to just kind of play with that for a moment, because I feel like we are being called to think differently and to see differently and to really go to places that perhaps we have not gone before. And my sense is that this is a very, very personal conversation, that just like WSA was sort of the micro of the macro, that we as individuals are the micro of that macro. So, you know, I know that we as messengers, I'm not even going to say speakers, because that's what we are. We're messengers. That, and it doesn't matter if you do that professionally or not. I feel each and every human being on this planet is a messenger in their own right, but that their message, if we're being really real, is just a words. It's like a representation of who we are, of our being. It's like our signature. And so, you know, I can't not say something about how, because it is freaking intense what is going on right now. It is, it can be extraordinarily overwhelming. I mean, and I don't even want to go there, because it's not about naming it. Everybody knows what it is. Okay. So how do we at this time get our bearings? How do we even, maybe the message we've been putting out into the world is no longer relevant anymore. Maybe this is why, one of the reasons why we're in this whirlwind right now, is so that when we're spit out at the end of it, we have a whole new perspective and a whole new message to bring. So, you know, I just want to bring it home, and I don't want to talk necessarily about the big picture, even though ironically that's where we've always tended to go. It's about the big picture. I actually would love to bring it home to the individual, because the truth is, and Gail will tell you, in the time that we've known each other, which is what, 20 some odd years now, I have said this quote about 1 million times, but it's just relevant, which is, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. And that is really, it's like, if you're looking, what the hell can I do right now? How do I even, you know, what do I do? How do I conduct my business? How do I just wake up? How do I get out of bed in the morning? That really, I just want to invite everyone to just take a deep breath and like, we're all in this together. You don't need to figure it out. You don't need to figure out the big picture. Your concern is you. And I'm not preaching here. I'm just saying this is how I'm feeling in my heart, that if we can just focus here, that this is where the work is. All that mayhem and madness, what if that's just a projection of what's going on in here? And what if that's just an invitation for us to go inside and to heal? Because that's what the world is wanting right now. The world is wanting to heal. And there is not one soul on this planet, and we can never say that in all of history has there ever been something that happened, an event in time that did not touch every single human being on the planet. This is not an American issue here. This is a every single human being. So what we're talking about here is humanity. So humanity is in this together. I don't care what side you're on. I don't care who you voted for or whatever. It doesn't matter, because it is all the same. It's all the same. It all comes down to, because who are all these people in power? They're just a person. They're just an individual. So, okay. So I can't not go there, because I want to give everyone not just hope, because it's not even about hope. It's about this is why we're here on planet Earth. It's because we are here to be our unique and divine beings that we are together. So I feel like, and maybe this goes against the grain, but I, for one, am quite excited at this moment, because I feel like, literally, I was buzzing all day yesterday, because I feel, as all the stuff has been going on in the world and specifically in the States lately, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the new Earth emerging right now. Like, we are in the face of it. This is what a new Earth unfolding in this moment looks like at this moment.
Right.
It looks like complete mayhem and madness and chaos, but I can feel what's emerging. So I just want to say that, because this isn't about being Pollyanna. It's not about being airy fairy. This is about you. And this is about each and every person doing their work, cleaning up your own backyard. Don't worry about the big backyard, because there is this thing called the ripple effect, the 100th monkey, the butterfly effect, whatever you want to call it. Focus here. Do your work here. And just by the very nature of how the universe works, the world is being healed. As long as we're not, we know where to focus. So,
Right.
Sorry, I'm just going to get off my little soapbox, but because
it's about using our voice and using our message. And that's why it's really, why we look, as Leora, you said, you read that original vision statement of ours, that women are at the forefront. And it is using that gifted message that does cause that healing, that does cause that transformation. And sharing your message serves others, and it helps others break free. And to your point, Leora, where you're talking about, hey, that works within, but sometimes we need that help from others. So by you sharing your voice, by sharing your gifts, that you can, if you think of it that way, we can help others come to that healing as well, and create that change.
And I think healing seems to be the theme right now with all the mess you're talking about that we are experiencing in the world. And I love that the call on this show today is for that, to look within, be the change. And it's like you said, not Pollyanna, it's necessary to do whatever feels like the authentic place for you to be, to do, to step into, to help this whole thing move forward, right? To help everyone, our little baby steps help the whole is what I heard.
That's right.
And Women Speakers Association has always been that, right? So I want to hear, like, okay, let's say, what are we thinking we're moving into? What is there a vision that both of you have? Gail, do you want to address that?
Sure. Well, because Leora and I have had some conversations just as we've reviewed, reflected back on these last 10 years. And we had a call that was a really beautiful call, because we actually read some of our past things that was written, and we got to the vision, and Leora, you read it out loud, and it became very clear that it was the same vision, right? The vision hasn't changed. And this vision, and I'll let Leora speak to this, but where there was a line in the vision for women to authentically express themselves. And then Leora, well, what does that mean? Like, to really break it down, because we're seeing that meaning come true. It seems to be the more relevant piece today. So Leora, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, if I think it might be appropriate just to share the vision before we go there, because
Sure.
maybe people don't know what that is. So this is our vision. Our vision is of a world in which women are empowered to authentically express themselves, to build a thriving, prosperous business and feel a part of something greater. A world in which women take ownership of and step into being the leaders that they are, using their voice to powerfully inspire others, thus causing transformation in the lives of their clients, their companies, communities, and the world. That is who we are.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny because, yeah, when Gail and I were talking, and we're like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to powerfully express oneself or authentically express themselves? And I just keep feeling like maybe this vision that we put down to paper 10 years ago, maybe that was just the impetus or the catalyst to stir in anyone who were to read or hear those words, to stir in them this seeking for truth, for their truth. And because we're not stagnant beings, we're ever evolving. And so to think that we know who we are, and then to attach to that definition of who we are is sort of, it's not just like missing the point, but you're like, we're missing out on the real you, because you are ever forever evolving. So it's, using the opportunity of this 10-year anniversary to really look at that, and to what it may have meant to us then, even though it still resonates with us, maybe it's taking on a whole new meaning now. So I would just invite each and every person who's watching this to ask themselves that question, like, who am I, or who do I think I am, and how perhaps have I actually evolved in, let's say, the last 10 years, 5 years, 1 year. It's a time of redefining
I like
myself
that.
and
Yeah.
And what we saw in 2020 with Women Speakers Association was a whole lot of letting each other express ourselves and learn from that. You know, we had so many gatherings that we had never, an unprecedented number of gatherings on the positive side, you know, within the organization where people could learn from each other, from each other's messages like never before. And so I do think you stirred up something, right? And something got started stirring in 2020, and something's going to happen this year. And what I'm hearing is we're not sure what it is, but we're going to be right there with you and for you.
Absolutely.
exactly.
And well, one thing, when you bring up what just happened over this past year, I mean, it was monumental. And while the world was being told to disconnect, stay away from other people, you know, break those relationships, don't spend time with your family or people outside your household, the very opposite was happening within Women Speakers Association, where these localized communities, micro communities of Women Speakers Association were born, and women were being called. They stepped into their voice, their wanting to make a difference, and stepped up as leaders. And we know them today as what we call our global business connectors, which I mean, are amazing, amazing women who are taking that charge, but they are building connection and keeping connection, keeping people connected in a disconnected world, or a world that wants to disconnect, you know? So that's where it solidifies when you start to look back that the Women Speakers Association, that dream that popped into your head, Leora, it's a gift, and it's a gift for all women, and it is a place, and it continually evolves and grows in that place for women to come and show up, to be able to take their gifted message and be able to share it. So really, this is about it's a platform to give you visibility to that message, right? To help you get it out. And you can do that in a number of ways. It's done face to face. It's done in books. It's whether you want to write a full book or a chapter. It's done in simple conversation with just another person, you know? So
that get sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead. Well, I just want to go back to the connection piece. You know, that's, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm starving for connection. I mean, community's always been important to me, but now given I mean, it's like aching for community and for that connection. So the fact that WSA is, I mean, there's all kinds of communities and whatnot out there. This is, you know, this happens to be where we are right here, right now. And, you know, so Gail, I mean, I'd love to, because, you know, I sort of passed the torch to you now 5 years ago. How long ago was that? 2015? Yeah. So, wow. Okay. So a while ago. And, you know, you've just done, I just really want to commend you, my dear sweet sister, at doing such a phenomenal job of not just like, you know, keeping us afloat these last, let's just call it 6 years, but creating like in such a beautiful way that connection and that sense of community. Because honestly, I mean, I used to say years ago or hear, I don't remember if it was my thoughts or my words or someone else's, but that relationship is everything.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And, you know, and it's not just about like getting ahead and getting the right connections to get ahead, but it's about, I mean, this is life we're talking about here. And these are other people's lives that our lives are affecting. So to have that place to come and to not, yes, share our message, but remember, there is no separation. We are our message. the words are just an extension and expression of who we are. And so to have a place to be, period, you know, to just be. And then organically what happens is, you know, if you want to call it your message or whatever, but you just be. And so we get to be with each other. So, and to support and share with one another in a time that we need that more than ever. So I'm just very, very grateful. I just want to thank you so much for being the example, because that right there, that's what I'm talking about, is how do we lead? What does the new paradigm look like? And how do we be a leader? Maybe there isn't even such a thing anymore. Maybe we're all just being together, and we're living by example. We're being that demonstration, and together the tide, you know, the tide rises. So, but I just want to really commend you and to thank you for your tremendous work this past decade. I know that it wouldn't have happened without you, because heck, in those beginning years, you know, you kept me afloat. So I just yeah, I really wanted to say that.
And thank you, Leora, for saying that. It's beautiful, because I mean, this is a special time and it's a great time to reflect. But when we first started talking, and you were sharing that vision, the original vision, you know, for Women Speakers Association, that it be born in collaboration and contribution, and was adamant that we had to be a demonstration of this new model. You set the groundwork for that. You set that foundation, and where we are today is because of so many people along the way over these last 10 years. We have met people. I mean, just when I visualize, I see these beautiful faces, all women, you know, sharing their expert, whatever it was, to really build, because they saw into this vision and believed in it, and they shared themselves. And like you say, how they showed up, their message was them. It was their being, and they showed up and they poured that in. And some were here for 6 months. Some are still here today. Shout out a couple great, you know, Melanie Benson and Tracy Eamon, who are here today. And that it's because of the women here. So I just want to make sure that it's recognized that this business has grown because it was based on that new model that we didn't know what looked like. It was, it's been built on contribution, collaboration, and women just showing up in their authentic beings and sharing who they are and serving for the greater good of wanting to support and promote other women and their business and their message, to cause that transformation, to give them platform to do that. So I want to, you know, shout out to everybody who's joined us along the path. There's no one, and again, no one greater, no one less. You've all been such a special part. You've all been, it's all equal. And I look today at the women who are active in leadership roles within Women Speakers Association. I'm just going, and I know that more and more and more are going to just pour in and step up, because I feel it too. I'm actually excited because I know that the platform has opened up and opportunity has come where we get to step in and really rise, you know, but together as a collective, still in collaboration, still contribution.
Yeah. Well, you know, and one of the beautiful things about that, I call Gigi is my nickname for Gail. I can't call you Gail. You're my Gigi. You know, I just remember in those early days, because people would, when we started talking about this and people were like, okay, what? Okay. Because we knew more of what we weren't than what we were, right? We knew more of what the new paradigm wasn't than what it is. And so we put ourselves to the test, like Gail was saying, where we're literally, and this is no joke, okay? And this is one way that like we were really able, that working in a silo just is not, you're not really able to do this as, I think, powerfully, which is holding each other accountable. Because we asked ourselves, literally in each and every moment, being present in the moment and asking ourselves, is what I am doing or saying in this moment something that I'm doing by rote or by habit? Or am I consciously creating in this moment anew? Because we don't know what the new world looks like, but if we don't know what it is, then we can't operate from the past. That's not going to bring us into a new future. So, I mean, we caught ourselves. I mean, we literally worked for our whole entire first year. We created a whole business plan and the whole thing. And you remember what happened is at the end of that year, we looked at it and we're like, oh crap, this is the old paradigm. It was like, oh my God, we got tricked. We sort of, we didn't see it because, the fish doesn't see the water that it lives inside of. And so all of a sudden we saw the water and we're like, oh my God. And so we're all about jumping out of the fish bowl. You don't even want a new bowl. We just want, a whole new world. And but that, again, going back to community and connection, there's okay, I mean, and I sort of not police myself, but I watch myself all the time, and I catch myself all the time. But it's so amazing to have others with whom you have that shared vision and you have that same context within which to live your life. And if you have that love and trust with one another, you can kind of catch each other and call each other on it in a loving way, of course. But so that's another just beautiful benefit to having that community and connection. Yeah.
You're talking about connection, collaboration, this whole new paradigm. And I want to acknowledge the two of you for being the birth mothers and the leaders of doing that work, doing that, presenting that model, really, and living it and holding yourself, like you said, Leora, accountable to it. And I know, Gail, I've seen you do that. And on behalf of all of the women, the next generation of the Women Speakers Association leaders, and we're all leaders here, every member, premier member, they have the title of that in and on themselves. On behalf of all of us, thank you. Thank you for the 10 years. Thank you for the vision. Thank you for living into it in that unknown. Thank you for dismantling what you put together in that first year and sticking with the vision. It makes a huge difference. We are getting more connected because we're collaborating, because we're gathering in community, because we're living the vision that you're doing, right? You're doing it.
That we're all doing.
We're all doing.
That we're all being. Even
we're all being.
So. Yeah.
Thank you. This is such a special time, and I just want to thank everybody for sharing it with us and being a part of. It is because of so many people, and because of people who are watching right now. We're here because of you. We arrived at this point because of you and by you sharing yourself, just simply showing up, and all the conversations we've had with so many people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women around the world, and I'm so appreciative to get to show up every day and connect with women all over the world. Such a special place. This is such a special moment. The more we're here, it's just really moving, because this is the first time we've come together to go, hey, celebrate. And it wasn't, so anyway, thank you. And Laura, thanks for all that you do. You just bring out the very best in everybody on WSA TV. So thank you, and guiding us along on leadership, on the leadership team.
My pleasure. And it's going to be a great year.
It
It's going to
is.
be for sure a year like none other, but it is, there is not an ounce of my being that doesn't doubt the extraordinary that awaits us. Yeah, and again, not pie in the sky. Red thing, don't forget. And I something about the silver linings, of COVID. I mean, don't lose sight of that. There are blessings beyond measure that have come from this period. People reevaluating their lives. It is a time of great change and of tremendous opportunity to be the creators that we are. So I would just say, or ask, what does that look like for you? Each and every one of you. And it's okay to not know. In fact, it's probably better, not better, it's probably more, well, for sure exciting, but when you're working, when you don't know, sometimes you are available to receive all of those gifts that are always being showered upon us, that if we're like, we kind of miss out on. So it's okay to not know. I choose to not know, except I choose to know how my heart feels. And I believe that that we are literally watching heaven on earth unfolding right now. I know it looks like madness, but that's what it's supposed to look like at this stage of the game. So yeah, it's going to be an extraordinary year.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both for a fabulous conversation to kick off the anniversary year, to be with us during these tough times, and to just keep holding your steadfastness to your truth and unfolding of this heaven on earth, as Leora said.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much. Love you.